welcome to this week's edition of The Money Drill, the show that's committed to helping you drill down to the reliable retirement solutions for you. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and I'm joined by Erik Morgan. He is the president of Retirement National, and we also have another very special guest in the studio with us today, Hank Hargraves, who is president of Golden Medicare. Gentlemen, what a treat to be here with both of you. How are you?
We're excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so good. It's a great time. We love coming out.
I know you do. Well, and I'm so excited to hear more about your story, how you all got to meet, how you started working together. So tell us, how did this all come to be?
You know, it kind of started, I guess, about 5 or so years ago. Hank was in the insurance business. I won't get into too much of a story, but he was in the insurance business and the property casualty side of things. And my mother-in-law moved to town, mother and father-in-law, and they said they were looking for an agent. So I said I didn't really have a good one I could recommend. So they found Hank, said, you gotta go try Hank.
Okay.
So I tried Hank. He was stand up, such integrity. I remember I tried to get a policy through him, and he says, look, I can't beat the policy you currently have. You need to stick with the one you got. And so I knew, I was like, that's my guy. That's who I want to do business with. That's right. And so from that moment on, I was like, you know, we would talk, we became friends, and the Lord allowed us to have that bond of friendship. And so I said, at some point, we want to do something together. And so that's kind of, the Lord allowed this to happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Erik pitched the idea of health insurance, and because at Retirement Financial Group, they were looking to add services for their current clients and be able to not just help them plan for their financial planning, also their healthcare planning. So I did my research before I gave him an answer, because my first answer wasn't necessarily the answer he wanted. But the more research I did and the more seniors that I talked to, I realized there's a really big need in Southeast Texas for local advocacy for Medicare clients. So here we are, our business is growing. We have some really great clients, and I'm glad to be here.
That's awesome.
He's done a great job, just loving, really looking out for the best interest of the client as it relates to their healthcare Medicare needs, and we are super thankful for that. That's how I knew whenever he declined business, you know, that I was like, I was willing to pay more, but he said, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm like, that's the type of guy that we want, Clark and I wanted on our team for serving our clients.
That's
and
awesome.
So the Lord allowed that to happen. So super thankful.
Well, I know that we have so much to cover today, and the reality is that there are over 10,000 Americans who are turning 65 years old every single day. And with that important birthday comes a very important word, the M word of Medicare, right? And I have heard from Erik, Hank, before I met you, he calls you the Maverick of Medicare. And so I can see why that's a great nickname and that you are such an expert on this subject. So I'm really curious, on the subject of Medicare, obviously it's so important. What are some of your core beliefs that drive what you do day in and day out for folks and helping them understand this whole Medicare thing?
That's a really great question, and then we believe we have three core values. One of them is we want to be an advocate for our clients. We want them to do the best thing that's for them. And finally, we want them to realize that they've invested into this their whole working life, and so it's time to make the best decision for them. So going back to the advocacy thing, I believe that seniors should have someone standing in their corner, you know, when they make this choice, so that if there's any kind of questions down the line, they have someone to call. They have an office to walk into. They can call me, call our team, and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Can you explain this? There's been many times, believe it or not, my clients walk in with a 𝗳𝗵𝘆 sack of junk mail on there, and they put it on my desk, and they want me to sort through it for them because they don't know who to trust. So we help. We do all kinds of services. I even throw away their junk mail. So
and shred it, right?
Yes, and shred it. So, and also, what I like to try to tell them as we meet is that they need to do what's best for them, not what's best for their neighbor or their brother or their sister or their mom. They have to do what's best for them. That's based on their health condition and also their financial, situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And finally, I feel like, they've worked 30 to 40 years and they've invested into Medicare, and it's very important that they don't make that decision overnight. So later in the show, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but those are our three core values when we're looking to bring clients into our business.
I love that. Well, for folks who haven't turned 65 yet, or maybe you have, you're all too familiar with once that birthday hits, what happens? All this junk mail starts pouring in,
phone
right?
calls.
All these phone calls. It's hard to sort through all that noise. So, Hank, I'd love to start off by hearing, what are some of the most common concerns that folks have regarding Medicare when they contact you, when they come and meet with you?
Well, there's three main things.
Okay.
The first one is, how does it work? What are the costs associated with it? And then also, finally, how's it going to change my current health care?
So let's unpack each one of those, because those are big things.
It's a lot. It's a lot to talk about.
It's a lot. So first off, how does it work? How does this whole Medicare thing work for folks?
Well, let's start with how it shouldn't work. You know, how it shouldn't work is it's time to turn 65, and they have to make a decision, and they go through all of their junk mail, and the telemarketer calls them, and they make a decision, you know, 10 minutes into the phone call. That's how it shouldn't work.
That's how it should not work.
That's how it should not work, yes.
Let's be very articulate with that, yes.
To touch on what I said earlier, you put 40 years into this, you should make the best decision for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, there are some likely consequences if you make the wrong decision.
And do people often feel pressured when they're getting these mailers and they're getting the phone calls, or they want them to stop, right? So
they want them to stop. Or sometimes what I see is there's analysis by paralysis. What I mean when I say that is that there's so much information, they just choose to take no action, and that's a bad thing too.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, to not make a decision is to make a decision,
That's right.
unfortunately,
That's
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like to tell people that we do business old school. We do business face to face, and my clients love that. It's a breath of fresh air in our community for someone to be able to walk in the door, shake a hand, and meet somebody that actually cares about them.
For sure, for sure. So we've talked about how it should not work. So let's talk now, how should it work?
It should work. You should find a local advocate like myself that can educate you on the process, and then make the decision that's best, that's truly best for you. I want to touch on the costs, because that's a big question.
For sure. Yeah.
The cost of Medicare is based on your income. There's a 2-year look-back period. Most people don't know that. So how this ties in with me and Eric is that if someone comes in and they're about to retire and they've already retired, it's likely that once they get into retirement, that their income is going to come down some. But your Part B and your Part D premiums are adjusted based on your income from 2 years ago. So if you're not working with a financial advisor like Eric and someone like me, you know, you could be paying triple or even quadruple your Part D and Part B premiums if you're not planning for that.
Wow.
There are some small solutions and tweaks that we can kind of recommend for you to do to avoid that. But most people, they wouldn't know to do that if they just make a decision over the phone.
Right.
You know, I think about, you know, we had clients come in that they're on Medicare, and they were looking for some help, but you know, part of the other things we've talked about on the show before, previous weeks, is the whole idea of Roth conversion and tax strategy. Well, you know, we have to sit down. It's like, we don't do this. Don't do this at home. Don't do this alone, right? Let us look at that, because it's so important how you take those Roth conversions and how that incorporates into your plan.
Right.
You know, couple says, I don't really want to pay the extra tax this year. You know, I'm okay paying it up to this point.
Right.
But now that kicks into my health care, or my Medicare premiums double. I don't want that. You know, I want to keep my Medicare premiums where they are. My monthly expenses the same. So I'm okay to this point. I don't want to go past that. But if you don't know those rules and the intricacies of how income and conversions, for example, affect that, that could cost you more money on a month-to-month basis. And if you're out there and you're wondering, you know, I really need help with Medicare. You know, I really need someone to advocate for me. I don't really know how this plays into my retirement portfolio, my strategy, you know, my analysis. If you want someone to be your advocate, to do what's best for them, you know, we're a fiduciary financial advisory firm, you know, and that same thing, you know, we're fiduciary because that's what our license says, but more important than that, it's because we love Jesus, we love people. Hank loves Jesus, he loves people. We're going to do what's best for you in the whole strategy of planning for your retirement and planning for your Medicare. If you need someone, you want someone to do that for you, please give us a call. Come in and see Hank and I, our team. We'll make sure that you're taken care of.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And I know we have so much more to cover. We've been talking about, how the process should work and the cost. We have so much more to dive into, including how does that affect a person's health care, different options available to them. So don't go anywhere, but we are going to take a quick commercial break. And during this time, we encourage you to pick up the phone and make this important phone call to be able to set up a complimentary, no cost, no charge, no obligation consultation with Erik and Hank and their team. Just simply pick up the phone, call 866-688-2591. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that will take you over to a landing page and allow you to set up your appointment that way as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about how does Medicare affect your current health care coverage? What are some things you need to be thinking about as it relates to your health care? So stay with us. See you right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to the Money Drill. I'm Kristin Oakley here with Erik Morgan and our very special guest today, Hank Hargraves. And gentlemen, what an awesome conversation we're having about all things Medicare. Such an important subject that so many Americans don't even understand fully how it works. And so before the break, we talked a little bit about how it should work in terms of enrolling in Medicare. We talked a little bit about the cost, and I know there's so much more we could cover, but I know that a big question a lot of folks want to know is how is their current health care going to change? I'm sure people ask you all the time, well, once I enroll in Medicare, am I going to still be able to see my same doctor? So talk to us a little bit about that and what folks need to be aware of.
Well, here in Southeast Texas, we have a lot of our clients that have worked at the refineries and they've been on these great PPO plans. And so as they get into Medicare, that's one of the most popular questions is how's it going to, is it going to change? Am I going to be able to see the same doctors?
Who's been seeing me for years, so I have this great relationship with,
That's right.
Yeah.
So the answer to that question is it depends on which option they choose.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring up something called Medicare Advantage. We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
That's Part C of the Medicare alphabet.
Right, the ABCs of Medicare,
The ABCs of Medicare, yes. So Part C is Medicare Advantage. If you've been around, you've probably seen a commercial. If you've seen a commercial with one of these famous actors that's in their 80s now, that's Medicare Advantage. Those plans have some really great offerings. But if you go to Medicare Advantage, it's going to be a managed health care plan with a group of doctors.
Okay.
So those doctors, those groups are actually really large. You'd be surprised about how many doctors are actually in those groups. But whenever I sit with someone, I collect what doctors they go to, and I would put them into a plan that fits most of their doctors. So that's with a managed health care through Part C.
Okay.
If they were to choose original Medicare,
Right.
and that's going to be Part A and Part B. Part A being hospitalization, Part B being outpatient care. And typically people, if they join original Medicare, they're going to buy something called a Medigap plan, covering the gap, because original Medicare covers 80%. So there's that 20% that's floating out there. In our working years, we're used to a health insurance plan that has a deductible and a max out-of-pocket.
Yes.
Well, with original Medicare, Parts A and B, that 20% does not have a max out-of-pocket.
Oh, wow.
So there's a solution for that. The second Medicare alphabet is the Medicare supplements, or some people refer to them as Medigap plans. It goes all the way from A all the way to N. It's a
Lots
very
of alphabet.
Yeah, it's all the way from A to N.
Right.
So if you choose the right plan, you could cover those costs at 100%. If you go with original Medicare, you can actually go to 99% of doctors in America.
That's amazing.
So those plans have an additional fees, have additional premiums every month. So you've got the two options. You've got Part C, which doesn't have additional premium, or you've got Original Medicare, and you could buy that Medigap policy and get basically guaranteed access to 99% of doctors.
So what I hear you saying is if someone wants to continue working with their same providers that they have for all these years, that's possible, but they just need to know their options and then make sure they're really selecting the right option for them.
That's right.
I've even heard Hank in the office, you know, we sit next door to each other, and I hear him on the phone all the time calling doctors' offices saying, hey, do you accept plan A, B, C?
Wow.
Do you accept plan A, B, C? And it's a constant. He's doing this for the client because he wants to make sure that service is given. He wants to make sure that whenever they sign for that plan, because what you know, these retiree plans, once they leave them as a retiree, you don't go back on them. Right. So we have to be very cautious and make sure we're thinking about that for the participant, that whenever they sign up for something, that is the right fit for them. And Hank does a great job in ensuring that that is the case.
And what a blessing, what a gift, because I can imagine how overwhelming that's got to feel of I got to pick up the phone and call these providers and see how it's going to affect, and not even knowing, we don't know what we don't know, right? And not knowing the right questions to ask can have a serious detriment on which option you end up with.
It's kind of bizarre for me because I call these doctors hundreds of times, and I feel like I know them.
Right.
You know, it's like if I were to see them in the store or bump into them, it's like I would want to like shake their hand and talk about my day. Right. But they don't know who I am. But I do want to make sure that they're accepting my clients. Absolutely. It's very important to me.
For sure.
To be an advocate for someone, and if I were to put someone in a plan and I say, you know what, Miss Susie, this is a great plan. You can go see you know, Dr. Smith, and then she calls me next month and says, you know, Dr. Smith isn't taking this plan. I mean, that's a shot to the heart, honestly. It's like, I'm not going to do that. Right. So that's why we go take the extra step and make sure that happens. And when you get into a Part C, Medicare Advantage plan, it's very important that you get that review done during annual open enrollment through October the 15th or December the 7th to make sure that your current doctors are going to take that plan for the next year. So what we do for our current clients is that we encourage them. We take a 5-minute, 15-minute phone call. If, you know, we want to check to see if any of their prescription drugs have changed, or if they've gone to different doctors, or if they want to go to additional doctors, and make sure that they're in that plan for the following year.
Right. Wow. I mean, what a gift. And I know you've already touched on some of the things that set you apart, but what are some other things that you feel like really set Golden Medicare apart from other providers out there?
Well, the truth of it is that our clients could enroll in Medicare over the phone. They could enroll, you know, online. They could do those things, you know, but they deserve better than that. They deserve better than a lifetime in investing into this government program and enrolling, and then they find out a few months later that this plan isn't accepted by their doctor. Right. Or maybe it has premiums and they thought that it didn't have premiums. So we feel like that it's worth more than just an over-the-phone experience. So we are a face-to-face. Like I said earlier, we're an old-school company where we are going to sit down with you. We're going to ask you questions. It's very important that we find out what your current health condition is, who your doctors are, what your prescription drugs are, because all of those things, and your budget. You know, let's be frank, you know.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, that's a real thing. We find out what your budget is, and then we sit down with you, and then we make a recommendation, you know. And I don't just make one recommendation. I say, here's your top 2 choices. Because for me, it's really important that we empower these clients to make the decision, you know, because it's not, and I tell them this is not what Hank says. You know, this is what I would recommend based on what you told me, and then allow them to make the decision. And that makes them feel good. Yeah. You know,
you've literally drilled down the options and made it, you know, what's in their best interest, and then they get to be empowered to make the right decision for themselves.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think about, you know, another example. We had a client just yesterday. She called me and she asked, I'm getting all these phone calls. I'm getting all these mailers. What is going on? Why is, she actually said, why is Hank sending me all this stuff? And I said, he's not. I said, it's not us.
Hank, right.
You know, someone does, they deserve better. They deserve someone, you know, all these phone calls, all these text alerts, and all the junk mail that they're getting, you know, once Hank is your Maverick of Medicare, right? You won't have to get that from anywhere else. Only changes are going to be coming is from our office, from Hank himself. He's going to communicate. He's going to make sure you understand what's going on with your plan, how he can serve you, how we can serve you as a team. You know, you could tell all those other junk mail guys and all these phone calls not to call you again, unsubscribe off that list, because Hank will make sure that you're taken care of. He's going to make sure that you have, as he's mentioned, that he has the best plan, you know, laid out for you. Ultimately, it's your choice. But the key is empowering you as a client to be educated about what you're doing and why you're doing it and how that affects you. Working with our financial team and ensuring how that affects your financial future, your financial strategy from a tax efficiency perspective. So if you want some help with Medicare and financial planning, be sure to call us. We would love to sit down with you and to really serve you and your family for years to come.
Erik and Hank, thank you so much. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but we encourage you at home, pick up the phone, make this important phone call, 866-688-2591. Erik and Hank would love to have an opportunity to have you come in, to meet with you, to be able to ask you these questions and help get you on the right track with this all-important Medicare question for you and your family. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the process. How do you go about enrolling in Medicare and what that means for you? Stay with us.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to the Money Drill. I'm Kristin Oakley here with both Erik Morgan and Hank Hargraves. We are having an awesome discussion today about all things Medicare. And I'm just curious, for someone who's watching and they're going, yes, I'm ready to enroll in Medicare, how do they go about doing that? How would you be able to help them actually enroll in it?
Well, if there's two ways. The first way that is recommended is to call Medicare. I would say don't call Medicare. That's what they have suggested, but that's going to set you back about 8 weeks during your enrollment process. Something that we haven't talked about yet is when you turn 65, there's a 7-month window.
Okay.
And if you are one of those people that are sitting around and you haven't made a decision during those 7 months, then they're going to start penalizing you when you do enroll in Medicare.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important to know.
Yeah. So 3 months before your birth month, you need to give our office a call.
So 3 months before you turn 65.
That's right.
That's right.
Call Hank.
Call us.
Call Erik. Yes.
We're going to sit down with you. If you're already on Social Security, you're going to automatically get your Medicare card. That's the famous red, white, and blue card. If you're not already on Social Security, we're going to sit down with you. We're going to log into the Social Security Administration, and we're going to help you apply for Medicare.
Okay, so that's the first step that needs to happen. So 3 months before you turn 65, and then what's involved after that? Because you talked about if they just call Medicare themselves, it's this long, drawn-out process. How quickly does it go if they just, have you help them with that?
If you sit down with us and we get you logged in, and your Medicare card will be there in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So you get your Medicare card, and then that starts the process where we sit down and we do our fact-finding, and then we collect all the information about the doctors and drugs, like I was speaking about earlier, and then they come back, and then we make our final recommendation.
Absolutely.
I'd like to remind the viewers today that our vision, our mission for Golden Medicare is to educate, advocate, and then offer services that's going to carry them through their entire retirement, their medical needs. We're going to sit down. We're going to be your advocate. If you've got questions about anything, if you need to help make an appointment, I've done that too. I know all the doctors in Beaumont and in Mid-County. If you need a dentist, I know the best dentist in town, and I've got some great stories for that too. So That's what we like to do.
Yeah. And I just really appreciate, it's, I think I mentioned it in another segment. Healthcare is one of the rising costs, and one of the things that affect retirement so much. And so what we saw was this, we do Medicare planning. We do this Medicare enrollment for these clients, for our clients. And we saw that, so many times, and the reason why we started this business, Clark and I started this business and wanted to find Hank to be at the helm running this business for us, is because we needed someone to say, these clients are near and dear to us. They're like family, we're, lack of a better terms, we're married to them as long as they're going to allow us to be, right? And so while we're there, we want to offer them superior service. We want to make sure they're educated. And Medicare has so many rules, so many deadlines, so many dates, so many complexities that honestly I did not have capacity for. I mean, retirement planning, tax efficiencies, all those things, that takes up all my bandwidth. And so I said, well, this needs to be offered. We need to make sure we have someone that can serve these clients, serve Southeast Texas in such a way that offers the same service we do as a financial firm to these clients to ensure they're getting the best care possible. And I think Hank's done a really good job of doing that for us. I'm educating and advocating for clients. That's something that, you don't get over the phone, right? Whenever you're on the phone with somebody, there's no personal connection. There's no face-to-face. There's no, looking into their eyes and making sure they're telling the truth. And I think that's really important for our area, our environment that we're in, where everything's going mass digital, social media, 3 clicks
Less
and you're done, less personal, but people specifically around the 60 plus age mark. I mean, they're not used to this. I mean, it's been a new development over the years, but they're used to the handshake, the look in the eye, your yes is yes, your no is no. And if that is what you're looking for, if you want from a financial planner to a Medicare professional, or even insurance, under 65, we do that. We didn't even talk about that. But if you need those things, we want to help you. We want to sit down with you. We want to package this up for you so that you see the value that's there as someone that's local, someone that cares for you, someone that wants to make sure your best interest is at heart, from Medicare, from financial planning, to all the things in between. Give us a call.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much. What a joy it's been to be with you. Such valuable information. Again, pick up the phone and call 866-688-2591. We love you, Southeast Texas. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.